All right, so my head's got to be in the center, and my eyes have to be visible, and go for it. What up, viewers? What up, what up? Calc Soups here, and welcome to the Friend Zone, a monthly video game show where I discuss the latest games with my friends. We decided to do an extra one this month. We'll be discussing a pretty cool indie game that came out a couple months ago called Before Your Eyes. During our discussion, we'll be talking about kind of what are our expectations going in. We'll describe the game for those of you who haven't played it. There's a little bit I want to talk about because I think 2021 is kind of a year really saturated with really good indie games. Not that previous years haven't been, but I'm just kind of getting a sense of like to hear what my friends think of that. We'll talk about the mechanics. We'll talk about the narrative and how much branching there is in the narrative. Then we'll talk about our gameplay, what we thought of the length, and then we'll kind of wrap it up with our final thoughts. So without further ado, let's jump in and start introducing everybody. Starting off with Eric. Say hello, Eric.
Hello.
And we got Kevin.
Hey, everybody.
Last but not least, we got Min.
Hello, hello.
Well, there we have it. So let's jump right in. I didn't know quite what I was expecting before going in. I'd known a little bit. I think I'd read a little bit about like a really neat indie game where you kind of blink your way through the story, but I didn't quite. I didn't know much beyond that. I don't know if anybody else had read a little bit more, had more of an or less expectation going in.
No, most of what my only really priming for this was I just had watched the trailer that someone linked before, and I don't know. I thought it looked pretty cool, and the blinking is a novel concept, and I'm a sad boy who likes sad games. So,
There you go.
So you know, that was about it for me. But yeah, it was nice.
I don't even think I watched the trailer. I like to go into things blind as possible, just with like I feel like especially with movies they give away stuff. So I was just like I just knew that like yeah you control it with blinking. I'm like okay that's interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
what can
down.
you do with that?
I was exposed to it from a couple of different places. It was mentioned on a podcast that I follow, and
Cool.
Jacob Geller. He's a video essayist that I really like, and a games journalist, I think.
Great. And then I guess I always like to start off with like kind of how you describe it. Usually we're talking about kind of big AAA games where we say Cyberpunk is a mashup between GTA and Skyrim or something. Now with more indie titles, it's just I guess this is just kind of a pretty cool narrative adventure. I don't know any other ways I would kind of describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely say it's a pretty experiential, and it's got a novel, it's got that novel blinking mechanic, but otherwise it's kind of more of a, it plays almost like a movie, just that you kind of interact with through your face muscles.
I don't know if we'd go as far as to visual novel it or
maybe some light elements of that, but
yeah, I would describe it as an experience for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really can't talk about it without mentioning the blinking mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
very much that's the core.
Yeah, it's definitely the crux. Before we kind of get into the mechanics and gameplay, and I don't know if we want to say this for later or talk about it now, but I just think that I've heard more and more about, like, especially in the last 12 months or so, is just how much the indie space is kind of taking over the games industry as a whole. And I think that perhaps some of that's due with like a lot of delays on the big AAA titles and the fact that you can distribute indie games like on all sorts of different platforms. That I'm really like contemplating like some of the biggest games I'm excited about are indie games that are coming out that just kind of, and I'm thinking 2021 is maybe that shift.
Yeah, I think that's a big. I think that the pandemic has had a big role to play in that because like big AAA games, they had to change a lot of their workflows and move a lot of their people to working from home. A lot of these indie games, like people were already, making them from home offices and stuff. These are being made by small teams, usually in their homes. So they
Yeah.
probably just didn't have to, you know, their workflows weren't as disrupted. So yeah, we got to just see a lot more releases proportionately this year.
I think for me, indie games, they're I feel like they're much more interesting than AAA games actually, because like they explore new mechanics and just different modes of storytelling that just AAA titles don't explore.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're gonna ask me what my top 5 favorite games of like the past 5 years were, like they're probably all indie games. Like Outer Wilds is on that list. Obra Dinn's on that list.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, and even in like even in the last year, it's like I think it's a little bit with like Fall Guys and Among Us was like late last year, and then Valheim earlier this year. This kind of game, like these big games are like just skyrocketing with tiny teams. And I mean, we can go back to Stardew Valley and stuff.
Yeah,
it's not like there's never been a big indie game.
I think part of this might just be that we're seeing games sort of mature as an art form now. So indie games are taking on kind of a similar role to what we saw like indie films take on as film matured as a medium.
Yeah.
Where AAA games have sort of settled into the safer big budget. Like you're not seeing a lot of new mechanics being explored in big AAA like franchise games or anything.
Yeah.
And that's sort of that's where a lot of the more exciting stuff and the experimentation and the risks are being taken in that indie space. And that's really pretty exciting for games as an art form and a medium, I think, actually, to see it maturing in this way.
I think also too, like the barrier to entry in the game development sort of space is so low. Like Unity and Unreal and Godot, they're all like free for the most part, and you can export them to like all the consoles now in PC, and it's like, and then you have access to all of these assets. And so you'll see these projects. Like I did a little bit more research into Before Your Eyes, and it started as something at USC. It was like an idea in class. They're like, oh, what can we do with a Blink? Or you'll see these little projects that start on like weekend game jams, and they can build up to it. Like Hollow Knight, one of the most well-known indie games of the last couple of years, like that started as a game jam entry. And so we're sort of seeing this like you don't need these teams of 500 plus people. You can have like a couple people get together and produce a full game.
Even Outer Wilds was a student thesis, I think. So
oh wow.
Yeah, Outer Wilds was a student thesis that got funding from Heroes.
Yeah, Masayoka's company picked it up. Mobius.
I also think, and I mean, to add more to it, I think on the consumer side, I think a lot of people are. I mean, maybe not all. I mean, Call of Duty is still going to be the. I think people are starting to. The like annual release is starting to wane. Like people are getting tired of cookie cutter game experience they get from FIFA or Madden or Duty every year, looking for something a little bit more unique, a little bit more involved, a little bit more experiential in it. Definitely something to get people turning towards titles.
I think that is sort of another thing, like going back to sort of as the medium matures, the audience is also maturing too, So people, you have kind of an experienced or a more sophisticated audience that's seen a lot of this stuff before. And so you do have a lot of, people who have been gaming their whole life seeking novel experiences, which also pushes them into that indie space.
Yeah. Like you've played 5 first-person shooters. You've pretty much played all of them,
Sure. Yeah. And how many games have you played where you can your way through the story?
Exactly. Speaking of that technology, it's been around for a long time. It's like how people with paralysis control PCs.
Oh yeah.
By using eye tracking technology.
Yeah.
And this is just the first time we've seen it used as a control, like a mode of control in a video game.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much of this stems off of kind of letting the rubber hit the road with some of the accessibility kind of eye tracking. I think I was watching a gameplay demo, and it was like the amount of information that you can get from just putting someone in front of a screen. So like, what are they looking at? Like I've seen some of those like in internal gameplay demos. It's like, yeah, you can tell where their eye hovers for 5 seconds and what they're actually looking at when they're playing. And they're playing a fighting game. Sometimes they're not even looking at the characters because they're health bar or something. Like you get, yeah. Like again, the technology side of it is just living in the future, and you can do a lot of stuff with limited equipment.
Yeah, it's a huge level design tool that game devs use on the backside. Like they'll track your player pathing, like where you jump, and like see why did they jump in the specific corner. And it was like, oh, because we accidentally put a spotlight here. There shouldn't be a spotlight here, so that we're drawing attention to the wrong part of the level, and it's a level design thing with like all of the player tracking things where during beta tests.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing we experience is, like Kevin said, is that that first setup of like trying to get the tracking up and running. What was everybody's experience with that?
I know I was joking about it before we got on here, but I actually had I had very little technical issues, especially with that initial setup. Like it wasn't missing blinks for me or anything. I was honestly kind of surprised how seamless it was.
Yeah. I was wearing glasses. Worked fine.
Yeah, I didn't have like any kind of friction with that. So I was impressed by that, and I was looking around at some other reviews, and some people were complaining, and one of the reviewers compared it to Skyward Sword on the Wii, which like my memories of it are so jarring because I just was frustrated with the Wii Motion Plus, but like this was like the complete opposite. Like I had no issue. I didn't have to recalibrate. It just
I do think at one point maybe the lighting wasn't good in my room or something, or I might have just changed posture just enough that it didn't like it. But I did have to recalibrate one time in my playthrough.
So I guess I'll be the representative of the other side. I had a lot of technical. I think some of it was I thought it would be good because I'm like really well front lit, so you can see. I mean, I know I have dark glasses, and like I'm front lit, so I'm wondering if like potentially sometimes it would reflect off of my, like the lights would reflect off my glasses, and like the initial setup I had to go through 2 or 3 times, and I got it kind of working. Another thing is like based on where my camera was sitting, so my camera's above my screen, and like anytime I would look down at like my keyboard, it would register that as a blink, and I'm like, okay, I kind of get that. Maybe if my attention is waning, that's when it kind of skips, and that gets to kind of the narrative portion of it. But yeah, I think I had to recalibrate through, and then jumping forward a little bit, like the end screen was really bright, like asking me to eyes, and I was like, I am closing my eyes, but it was really bright. So again, I think it was. So yeah, I think I had a lot of technical difficulty. I don't know if like having the camera below my screen versus above my screen would have changed anything, or if I was side lit, I'd be able to kind of get to it. I took my glasses off for like 20 minutes, just to play like, which was kind of fine, but
I think that might have been a front lighting issue for you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I was playing in a relatively dark room, and I got the game up and running in very, very few issues. I also not wearing glasses. So.
Yeah, so then you get through the kind of setup stage, and then just kind of, I guess it puts us off in the middle of the water, and you're like a whistling, and I really didn't get a sense of like kind of where we started off. Start to narrative.
Get on the boat, right?
Yeah.
You start off on the boat. Yeah.
You start off in the water, and he fishes you out of the water.
Oh, that's right.
Onto the boat. So it's like the first couple blinks you're calibrating, you're kind of slowly sinking into the water, and then he shows up and scoops you up.
Yeah.
And then it introduces like the metronome. mechanic.
Yes. I thought that is really, especially with theme for it.
Yeah.
Right
Should,
off the
should
bat,
we explain that, or I don't know.
Sure.
So just there's a little metronome on the bottom of the screen, and depending on how far you are from like the center point, it will adjust. It'll skip ahead different amounts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like introducing like big time skips because it's not like you're blinking your way through the entire life. It kind of introduces the big time jumps that would be different than like exploring the room and looking around.
There's two main icons, just the eyeball, and if you hover your mouse over the eyeball and blink, that's like how you select, and then the metronome. And whenever the metronome's on, any blink is going to jump you forward in time.
Yeah, so what did people think once they what were people's first senses of like, you start out on a boat or you start out in the middle of the water, you get fished out, and I remember looking around and just seeing like the giant tower, so references to our tower. Big colossal tower. I also made a Bioshock reference of like lighthouse in the middle of the water.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't really quite think about how you probably had a bit of a different experience just because you were streaming your gameplay too.
Yeah.
Interesting, because like for me it was a very solitary experience playing through this.
Mm-hmm.
And not in like a bad way or anything, but it's just kind of interesting because definitely wasn't cracking references or anything.
Yeah.
But I thought the initial like the intro there with the boat and everything actually did a really good job of sort of setting up the situation. Like you realize very quickly that you're a soul, and I mean, it gets referenced even further in, but it's like okay, I'm a soul, I'm being taken to be judged.
Yeah.
Got it. And I think it's pretty efficient, giving you all the mechanics and explaining sort of what you're doing.
Yep.
And then getting you right into it. I was actually pretty impressed how efficient that was.
Yeah.
Maybe I always have Hades' brain, but yeah, I was thinking he would be like a Charon type of boatman.
Yep. Yeah.
Type of character. And it was sort of similar.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an afterlife boatman for sure. So
yeah, definitely
some of that.
Oh, and I loved the seagulls, like where you I love the audio design of just like where the seagulls slowly start like, you're like, are they saying something? And like they slowly realize the liar. It's like, okay. Yeah, I really liked that audio design there.
Yeah, I almost wish I could have played in VR with just like looking around and like just present in this world. Like it was like, oh, I wonder if this would work. But then it's like, oh, you're probably not getting eye tracking then.
I mean, that was I didn't quite know where to put that in kind of our talking points, but that was definitely something I was. How do we get an eye tracker into a VR rig so that we have the perfect experience?
Yeah, it would definitely be. God, that would be so good if you could. Yeah,
I definitely thought you would the camera by moving your eyes as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
It took me a while to figure out it was a mouse control.
Oh yes,
I do. I wanted to just drive the whole thing with my head, basically, and
yeah.
would have been that would have been nice. It was still the mouse was fine, but yeah,
it was still very immersive after like the first few minutes. You really get into it.
Yeah.
And then like moving around when you're a child, you're like moving around boat or like in the clouds and stuff like that, or the doodles like the kind of dragging. Like I would even move my head the same way I moved mouse sometimes. Like that's how kind of immersed you get into it.
Yeah, you kind of want to be in it, So and eventually the is fine, and you still can totally immerse yourself with it. But yeah, it would have been extra layer of kind of fun if it was just moving my head around.
Okay, get into the story.
Yeah, I mean, go for it.
Should we go? Should we do a summer and then going back, or?
I think I kind of like how we kind of go going through each kind of like beat and where do we kind of, as I'm really curious about kind of branches.
Yeah, so I played through twice.
Okay.
Because I was curious.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. So.
And there are, you don't have a control over like the ultimate direction of the story. But,
Sure.
it does remember certain things that are.
Yeah.
That first half ending, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you can control that first half ending.
Which
be the artist or the. I guess yeah.
Well, I don't know. Okay, so I guess one of the big things is you kind of end up moving and like, did everybody end up?
Yes.
I am fairly certain that you cannot do any.
Interesting.
Oh, like you can't end up as a photographer?
My second playthrough. I mean, I didn't try for my second playthrough. I went all in on being the boy I could, and I still ended up as an artist at the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was wondering like what the differences were. Like you choose, I don't know, when you're 5 years old, of like which background you get. Like, are you in Santorini or are you in Egypt? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was Egypt or something.
Okay. Yeah.
Egypt.
So, were you able to not go to the beach?
Well, yeah. So that does change a little.
Interesting.
So you go my first did go to the beach with Chloe, and then the second. So it changes, like basically you go to sleep, and then like you're doing your piano audition the next day. And obviously you get a full night's sleep and you practiced, and like it's much easier. It's like impossible if you are an irresponsible piano boy.
Yeah.
You have Beth from Queen's Gambit where you're playing the piano on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yes. So you go do that, and you like knock it out of the park, and then you go to the beach with your parents after that. And your parents are like there. So you still do the stay here constellation and everything, but it's sitting with your parents, and your parents telling you how proud they are of you and stuff. Instead of you and Chloe.
Yeah.
I liked the sort of environment. If you go with Chloe, it's better to me. I feel like that's kind of feels like the canon choice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I did.
And far future, Chloe still shows up even if you don't go hang out with her. And
okay.
Stuff. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I would think that her checking out your art exhibit, it would still say much of this. Like, hey, you're still that weird kid that lived next to me. So
yeah, pretty neutral.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's also all you get into the unreliable narrator aspect of.
Of
part of that game too. So, but yeah, so you kind of end up hitting all the same beats. Things are slightly different based on the choices you make, from what I could tell.
Yeah, like the doodles and the. Is there a note? Was there a decision point with like the note or something?
I think you can. Yeah, I think you can choose whether to draw the caricature of the teacher or not.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Time lapse or something.
Yeah.
And then like depending, I like how the drawing changed.
Yes.
Like it would cycle through different options.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I think that I think it's only art for when you're like moving into your adult life, because there was a lot of effort put into like the different design paint on your stuff.
Yeah.
It definitely felt like the photography was an end game option, but
interesting.
I found no way to do that unless you like have to get that one picture of Chloe when she runs away really fast in order to unlock that or something.
I did get that photo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think the game branches that much. I think there's only one.
Right.
Interesting.
It is kind of fun, depending on whether you pick like Greece or Egypt. You end up like when you're a painter, you end up going to Greece or Egypt and
Yeah.
painting there, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I liked piecing together kind of those pictures because it was look around the land, draw them, and then it would rotate through like styles.
Yeah.
A little weird when like it wouldn't capture my like blink just right, where like I'd get two different stylistic choices in a single thing. I mean, which was totally a thing, and I definitely
fucked up and made some bad art for sure. Like fuck, not that
mistakes, just happy accidents.
Happy accidents,
right.
Thanks,
Yep.
Bob Ross.
People will still buy it anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. Like, I don't like. Did you guys choose to sell out or in that? Or
oh yeah, what was that?
Did you sign the contract?
I sold out.
I crumpled it.
I was like, this is every artist's dream is to get paid to make art, right?
yeah. I live that life, man. Like, fuck being a starving artist. I need to get paid.
Well, it's a good thing that if you crumple it up and throw it, it comes back and says, "You showed them you're rich anyway because you're just such a genius."
Oh wow!
The exact same outcome.
Oh wow!
You're just talking to your art teacher instead of the agent in some of the scenes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why the story did hit me so hard was because like I kind of did have that same childhood. Like I was put into piano lessons growing up, and I did end up becoming an artist.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's where some of these identifying with.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and maybe that was a bit of a disconnect for me because I've never been a particularly artistic person. I didn't have any of those early childhood I never had early instrument lessons or any of that. It was nice pretending to be someone artistic though.
I loved the piano mini game. Like I was like, I might not be actually good at the piano, but I could stare at a piano. Yeah. I could definitely run my fingers along the keys like everybody else because that's what I enjoyed doing as a kid. Yeah. So I was really curious as to, and again, I think sometimes it felt like I would accidentally blink past, which I think is somewhat of the point. Like I'm really curious on like a second playthrough of like how long or how much information am I skipping by like an accidental blink, or how much detail am I losing by like, and I think you get like, I'm wondering how much priming there is of like you do rapid blinks at the beginning. I don't know if it's a general thing or something that I do, but like as soon as you've started to blink a couple times, like you're hypersensitive to blinking. So I'm curious if that is part of the design of like you'll miss some details if you're as the game trains you to blink so often.
So what I was doing really early on was just like closing one eye to rest it and then opening up the other one kind of thing.
Min's got a min-max. Min's got a min-max the blinking game.
I guess so.
What ended up happening was like you kind of get into these moments where just nothing really happens and you're kind of the game just waits for you to blink and you're and the moment you kind of lose the moment when you do it. So it's kind of so then like after I experienced like about 2 or 3 of those types of scenes, I was like, it's not really doing anything. I'm just gonna play the game the way it's meant to be played, where I just blink whenever I need to blink.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of started to feel it's almost like an actor in a scene or something. Like you start to feel there's like beats that you can feel where it's like, it's almost like this is a blink beat. Like this would be like this is like a scene button where I could blink away and it would feel satisfying to end the scene here.
Absolutely. I was curious. I'm glad that Min tried that because I was curious like how much tracking it does and like if I wink, how does it register that? Just my general like kind of engineering trying to understand the mechanics. I'm glad that someone tried to wink, because that'd definitely be something I'll try in the next playthrough.
Yeah, that did not even occur to me.
You could always switch over to the mouse controls and like not have to worry about it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's true.
I was having some issues with like the stay here and the stars. Like I kept messing it up, and so I just was hopping back and I'm like, I want to try it with the mouse just so I can talk about it. And it was like, oh, okay, this is so much easier. But then you lose those sort of involuntary blinks.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really changes the experience.
Yeah,
I only played a couple scenes like that, and it's like, well, I can control it. It just like
I feel like
like that you're missing stuff that you can't be there for everything.
I feel like that's sort of the part of the magic of the experience there.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't recommend playing the game manually like that if you can at all avoid it.
Yeah.
Kind of makes the emotional moment get harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're involuntarily blinking through tears or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing about crying. You keep blinking away the tears.
Yep.
And it just makes it go faster.
So I was a little discombobulated by like reset. Like I liked talking to the Taran guy. Like I really liked kind of talking to him, and he's like setting up, and he's like, "There's something you did," and like he's pretty. I was really kind of
real aggro.
He gets real aggro, and I was like, oh man, it's like, yeah, we haven't talked about like unreliable narrator, but like
now we get into the part of the game that I'm a little less glowing about.
Okay.
I feel like so much of the game puts you into this character and asks you to really be like embody this character.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I found it kind of disorienting when when they're all of a sudden he's yelling at you for lying, and you're like, and I'm just like, what? No, I was just having fun, or like kind of having this cathartic feeling reliving this life. Oh, I'm not this character. Right. Benny is his own character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he has his own agency that I don't have in the story. And that's fine. It was a little bit dissonant for me at first before I like kind of readjusted my expectations to it a bit, I'd say.
Yeah, when you reconsider the actual framing that gets revealed to you, where it's a child, who you didn't actually live through the adult life, and you consider the stories being told by a child, then it makes sense that they would lie, right?
It does. Oh, it makes perfect sense, and I was fine. I just sort of it took me out of it for a sec, especially with how aggro the boatman gets at you.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I started like Kevin said, like I that was the moment where I was like, oh, am I an unreliable narrator? Like what's gonna change kind of time through? And then you kind of continue to play, and I'm like, okay, like I'm like, what did I do? Like it felt like I did something wrong. And
I guess that was the other thing. It wasn't totally clear to me that Benny had done something, and it took me just a little bit to be like, oh, this wasn't a choice I made. This is the way the story goes.
Yeah, because I had selected that the mom was the composer and not the accountant, and I was like, oh, is that why? Like, because it's like she was like, I don't know, like, I had sort of that optimistic take. It was like, like she was hard, but like it was from a place of like trying to support and like.
Oh, same. And I was just sort of like, the person.
Is that it? Like, did I mess up?
Yeah, exactly.
But then going and then like going back to the specific memories that he is looking for, where you it was really cool seeing them and then being like, oh yeah, I did feel like this memory felt weird when it happened that first time through.
Yes, I guess. Although again, I sort of bumped up against that because I tried to stay for those memories the first time through.
Oh, okay.
And I I didn't get I didn't try to blink through it. Spooky phone I'm approaching. I'm like, I want to see this, and I'm like keeping my eyes open as hard as I can, and then it just like doesn't go anywhere. So it's like, again, sort of Benny as a character forced me to skip that, when me as the person controlling Benny and these memories didn't want to.
Yeah.
Which was kind of an interesting dynamic there. That said, it was nice to go back and
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, it was still like nice to go back and see them again, because I was intensely curious what these memories that I had been made to skip were.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like the emotional weight of the second half was like I felt like there was supposed to be something I'm feeling, especially when you're like reliving. Like I mean, I think one of the most parts was the part with the cats. That was definitely something I was like, oh, I'm meant to like take this in. So terrible. That was like something that hit me though. But like there was other times where I think I had sat through the previous memory, so I'm like, again, I've gone back to, oh, am I remembering, or what am I meant to be taking second time?
Yeah.
The mom got me that first time through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then you painted like the whole memorial for her.
Yeah.
Where like
oh yeah,
like the life of your mom kind of thing, and like
oh,
in
yeah.
her memory, as
Yep.
like your masterpiece for the like final exhibit. Like that was very affecting to me, and then like to find out that wasn't real was kind of a shock. But then to see,
I totally agree.
but then like when it was paralleled at the end, and she did the same thing for you, whereas like she wrote a book for you, like about your life, and that kind of that parallelism kind of it just welled up in me really bad.
Yeah.
It is that last scene is very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely tears.
There was another thing where I was getting, all right, like I didn't quite understand what emotion I was supposed to, or like I didn't understand the mom's emotion. Like you write out your first line as a writer, and you're like, or at least my line was like, I'm a kid who grew up in a lonely or a lonely kid who grew up in a, I don't remember if it was weird or lonely, or there was some combination of that. And the mom gets like really upset, and I was like,
well,
I didn't quite,
you
quite
type
understand
out,
it.
You have to type out like, did you say accountant or composer for her?
I put composer for her.
Yeah. See, it's essentially I deliberately went through and made the opposite choices the second time through.
Yeah.
And she reacts the same way either time, but it's sort of interesting because either way you write it, it's either like hearing you say that you had such a happy childhood is so hard that she is so poignant that she can't bring herself to face you, or you saying that you had a miserable childhood makes it so that she can't face you because she feels like she failed as a mother.
Yeah.
So it kind of works both ways.
Yeah.
Interestingly. But yeah.
Yeah, there was another point where I didn't quite understand. I didn't understand Chloe's relationship with the second half play. It's like she comes over. I think I did whatever I could to like get her to come over. And she kept telling me like, was it like that I was faking or something like that, or I didn't really have what I said I had, and like I didn't understand where that was coming from. Yes. And I didn't know what emotion I was supposed
to. I think this speaks to like sort of something that happens to sick kids sometimes, is like their friends kind of do, especially because I think they established like Chloe's mom had just died
Yeah.
Not that long ago, and
Yeah.
I think that was sort of Chloe being in denial, and how her sort of challenge accepting that is even harder on you, who is dying.
Yeah.
um,
But then at the end, she's like, I think in the writing, I had established Chloe as my first love, and like I feel that same way. But like the previous conversation arc, she had, I guess, yeah, I think you're right. Maybe I didn't get that at first, that she was having trouble processing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's also
That's definitely happening.
yeah. And as far as the sort of first love thing, I mean, I think the writing's still good there. She is, she's a pretty believable as a 12-year-old girl in that situation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I guess what were kind of people's thoughts at the end? I really liked the metronome switching between kind of the last moments kind of stuff.
Yeah, that last scene is powerful.
Yeah.
Swapping between the gatekeeper and the mom. That's like, it's worth playing the whole game just for that scene because it's so poignant.
It really is. Like, that scene is what makes this game so masterful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be one of my favorite like indie games of the year.
Yeah.
Because of it. Like, it's incredible how much it builds up to this one moment. Like, the whole game is meant to prime you just for this moment when you're crying, and that just makes you blink more and more, and then just every time you blink and you hear the voices change, like the moment before you open your eyes and you're going back and forth between these two scenes, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's really the physical way that it interacts with your physical blinks makes it even more poignant, I think, and I think that's the big achievement of this game.
Yeah. Go for it.
No, yeah, it's just like that. That's the moment that I'm gonna remember from this game is this. And
yeah, I was doing my best to try and keep like my focus on the mom side of things. So like anytime the metronome's swinging, I'm like, blink past this. I want to go see my mom. Like that's the part I want to see. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Same.
Yeah.
Like I just like I constantly am thinking about just that first line where the mom says Benny was like a normal boy who grew up in like a normal house.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, and it just tears up every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a weird question. What did Benny die of? I know it's not really described. Did Benny die of coronavirus?
I think it was like a type of cancer or something.
Yeah, I definitely have.
Was it cancer? I don't know.
Yeah.
He's on a respirator. He's on a respirator at the end, and the big red scary disease kind of looks like a coronavirus. Is all I'm saying.
I think it's just whatever. It could be consumption.
I know it's like it's obviously deliberately not stated and left ambiguous, but I just especially on my second playthrough, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, am I dying of COVID right now?
Yeah, I mean it hits a little different in current atmosphere.
Yeah. I actually yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was some form of cancer. So, I really liked the close your eyes and listen portions of the game.
Yes. And those were also very good.
And it was like, okay, cool. And it was, and I mean, that was the cool. I mean, the game is before your eyes, but those were again like every moment. So we open them now. There's a lull in the conversation, but is there going to be more conversation after? When do I feel comfortable opening my eyes? I really like the audio, and that's probably another one of the. I really liked closing your eyes, especially, and that's another thing at the end of like close your eyes. And it was Oh man, that hit me. That's again no other point.
Yeah.
Close your eyes. Shows the maturity of the. Yeah, the immersiveness.
Really cool detail was that in the lesson, when you're in class with Chloe,
Mhm.
the thing that teacher was teaching about was Egyptian mythology.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
so the god of death is and the cat.
Yes.
Yeah, he was telling Anubis and Ma'at, which is sort of what you're interacting with in the spirit world, which was a cool touch.
Yeah.
That was a really cool, fun little detail.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was a cool detail. Something I noticed on my second playthrough actually is when you're in the doctor's office, even before the second sort of run through of things. You actually you can like one of the things you can just interact with. You can like kick the doctor's stool across the room, and it like reveals more of the room if you hang out in there.
Oh,
And
interesting.
you can see there's a chest X-ray on the wall, even in the first playthrough. And I don't know a lot about chest X-rays, but like the lungs are all like kind of black looking in it and stuff. So I don't know what, maybe like lung cancer or something. I don't know.
Could be like tuberculosis.
It could be TB or yeah, or COVID.
or
COVID.
Ooh. Yeah. Well, I think the audio side of it I think this is kind of a really good time for I think in one of the more recent kind of indie showcases they talked about Xbox. They talked about a like audio only game.
Interesting.
And I was like, I could definitely see. I'm definitely down for that, especially playing this and like getting a really cool narrative and story, audio only, because those are the parts that I'm.
That sounds
really cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there one announced? Are they making?
Yeah. It's called The Veil, and it's like fantasy themed. I think you play blind princess or that, and trying to like defend you're trying to defend your but all of its audio cues, and there's actually like combat involved, I think.
Oh wow.
So that's they heavily depend on the audio of
it. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I like these experimental things coming out, different ways that we can play games. It's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, and that's why I'm kind of like the future.
Yeah.
The whole studio is the game studio develops for blinded people.
Yeah, because they had Blind Gamer Steve, the blind influencer, and he was talking. He'd already worked with them on the game, and I think that I remember that about.
Oh shit! It's available now.
Oh, what?
Is it?
Yeah.
Huh.
Check it out.
Anything else? Any kind of topics we want to talk about before we kind of wrap up our thoughts?
I don't know about you guys. I kind of want more of this. Like the game as it was a good, very well realized experience that speaks through everything. But like, I kind of wanted to play through a whole life of a person from birth to death.
Yeah.
And make decisions and see a whole life before my eyes.
Yeah.
So while I was still perfectly happy with what I got here, I was a little disappointed that I didn't get to do that.
I could definitely see that, and that was that's kind of somewhat wraps into some of my criticism as well. It's just like I think like the next game that kind of does this is going to be even better. Like this, and that's the thing you can do with indies is you can play it on them a little bit quicker than larger games. So like the next iteration, maybe it'll have slightly less technical issues, my side, or like, but and maybe it'll be a longer experience in the next one. Like,
Maybe.
yeah, those are all great assets.
Like I was like, right about when it pulls you back and you get called a liar and have to go through it again. I was really excited. Like, all right, I'm going into my adult life. Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
try and like, I wonder how the relationship with Chloe is gonna be. It's gonna be cool. Like, if to try and not blink through my marriage, or am I gonna have kids? And it was just like,
Yeah.
none of that. That wasn't the point of this one.
Mhm.
But I hope people iterate on it because I would like to see that game as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool to be like show maybe an event from multiple people's point of views, or every time you blink, you
Ooh, that'd be
Oh.
cool.
Which perspective?
Yeah, like like if you're going through a bank robbery or something.
That's pretty
Ew.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, make that bin.
There you go. Yeah. That's the whole point. We're talking about indie games. You,
yeah, because
yeah,
I think
yeah, that would actually be really cool to explore.
yeah.
It would.
yeah, because I think that's the thing with like the unreliable narrator is like when you do go back, you get a little bit more context and like you
Yes.
overhear your parents talking, and so you
Mhm.
you have more of the perspective, and you kind of like can relate to the parents more for like what they chose to do, and so it's I'm a little bit disappointed that there aren't more branches because I was like, oh, I'd love to like play this again and maybe end up in a different way.
What does my life look like if I'm
It's not.
I'm a
yeah.
piano aficionado, like a
and so-
piano savant?
I would honestly say, yeah, like there's a little bit to be gained from a second playthrough, but if I was like recommending this game to someone, I would probably tell them to go in blind and just play their instincts and not do a second playthrough, honestly.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a big. I have a point here about length. It is a good kind of sit down, play once experience.
Mhm.
Kind of get what you need.
Yeah.
That's the other thing great thing about indie
one
games.
thing I heard about it was that people, because it was so short, people could play through it and then return it on Steam because it's less than 2 hours.
That sucks. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Those are bad people, and you don't want to be a bad person.
Yeah, please pay your game devs.
Yep.
Yeah.
a lot of work and love goes into these games. Please don't steal from game devs, especially
like
indie devs.
And be a piece of shit.
Yeah, I know, right?
Ugh.
Think about how your soul would do on that boat if you're the kind of person that does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that hour and a half length is just like that perfect. Like it's about the length of a movie. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was one of my game design friends always talks about like having 45-minute loop. Then they try to get you to do 2 of them, so they always aim for that like hour and a half when you're playing.
Oh wow.
It's sort of like the prime length of play for most games.
I think that's great, and I think there's a lot to be said for games that are more focused experiences like that. I like indie games and with their variety of pay structures and stuff too, because it's like, drop $10 on an hour and a half. If I'm spending about as much as I would to go to the movies, then it feels good. And, that's fine, and I think that's great, and that there should be
or
just as
even
much of a space for like short curated experiences like that as there are for big long Destiny 2s.
Or even episodic narratives. Like that's one of my favorite things. That usually the episode of like Life is Strange or like 90 minutes, get kind of a full 2 episodes or TV arc in a single episode of the games. Yeah, that 90-minute play is really pretty good. Or if you take time, it's yeah. I like that. I think you're right. And I think my first playthrough of Gone Home, 2 hours, maybe 2.5. The perfect length around the house, experiencing it.
Yeah, I mean, I like long games, but I love the idea of these single sitting short games too, and I'm glad that the game marketplace is large enough to accommodate both types of experiences.
Yep. That's why I love these indie games.
Yeah.
There we go.
12 minutes is another one that's just recently released.
Yeah, I've heard mixed stuff about that one.
Yeah.
Pretty excited.
But I pretty much just buy everything that Annapurna puts out.
That's usually that's a pretty safe bet. Oh my god, when's that Outer Wilds DLC coming out?
Yeah, there you go. Well, cool. Let's run through kind of our final thoughts. Sum it up in a minute or two. So, Eric, what were your kind of final thoughts of the game?
I think just great experience. Well, like, the ending, so good. But like, it's just like a very nice curated experience. Like, it's not a movie. It's not a visual novel. It's something that you can only sort of do as a game, and that's what I love about stuff like this. Highly recommend it.
Great, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm a sad boy that likes sad games, and I got what I came for on this one.
Nice.
Like I said, there's a lot of potential here that I want to see keep getting explored, but for this game being what it is and being such a tight, focused experience with just a phenomenal payoff at the end, I absolutely recommend paying picking it up for the small box price and just getting your cry on for an evening. It's highly recommend.
Yeah, what is it, like $10?
Yeah,
it's $10 on Steam.
Yeah. Min, final thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, you guys know just as well as I do.
Yeah.
Like, I immediately after I finished it tried to get as many people to play it as I can, just so that I could talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. Go for it.
Yeah, that ending was just so impactful. It's pretty much just gonna stay with me for a good long while, and I'm looking forward to seeing what other types of games can be made using this type of mechanic.
Yeah, very exciting. My final thoughts, like I'm really excited for. I mean, this is why I really like indie games. I can get the experiences that I can't get anywhere else. I think this is definitely one of those things that people should play just to kind of experience it, just to live in the blinking mechanic just adds so much more immersion, and Kevin said I really narrative immersion, and like I like playing sad narratives and kind of get that really cool feeling and of that version by being in it. I do want to see kind of the next iteration because I did have a little bit of those technical difficulties on game side. Hopefully, stuff gets. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So thank you all for joining me on this friend zone. I'm always happy to kind of. I really like some of the smaller games because we can play them in a single week and so I'm glad Min kind of leading the charge on this one, getting us all to play it. It was
absolutely.
Looking forward to more.
Well, cool. Thanks everybody. All right, and there you have it for our special extra August episode of the Friend Zone. Min kind of led the charge and said this was a really good game, and so I'm really glad that he did that so that we could sit down and kind of play some of these indie games. I'm always excited to hear more about games that you've heard about, so feel free to leave a comment below and tell me what you thought of this or any other indie games you'd like to play. But for now, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this content. If you do, follow, like, and subscribe to me, which more great content like this down below in the description. Thanks again to Eric, Kevin, and Min for talking to me about this one. Thanks to you for watching. I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super month. And I hope you have a super day. Bye!